They claimed it wasn't a bad pull, but look at his face walking the bench, they were wrong. Then the scan results arrived. Grade 2 tier, season finished, Luca collapsed on national television, and the roasting began before he even hit the tunnel. The players, the press, and the fans all piled on him immediately. Here is what actually happened and why it is a total disaster. The breaking point. April 2nd, 2026, the Lakers hit the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City for a crucial Western Conference clash. This mattered. LA had 50 wins and 27 losses, sitting third in the West. They had secured the Pacific Division. A top-tier playoff seed was finally within reach. And leading that charge was the most lethal scorer in the game today. Luka was pacing the entire league, dropping 33.5 points every night. He was third in dimes and second among guards and boards, grabbing 7.7. He had just wrapped up one of the most legendary months in league history, scoring over 600 points in March, a feat only 10 players have ever achieved. 13 straight games scoring 30 or more, 7 40-point nights, a 51-point clinic in Chicago, and 60 in Miami. The league named him Western Player of the Month without any hesitation. He was at his absolute peak, and then he hit the wall in Oklahoma. The Thunder crushed the Lakers 139-96. It was a massacre. LA trailed by 31 points at the break, 82-51. Within that wreckage, Luka had already signaled that something was going south. He was caught clutching his left hamstring during the first half, clearly visible on air. He got some medical attention during halftime. The trainers cleared him to play, so he headed back onto the court. Then, with 7 minutes and 39 seconds left in the third, the entire season shifted. Luka drove on Jalen Williams, tried to stop, lost the ball, and instantly clutched his left thigh before collapsing in pain on the floor. He stayed down through the timeout, covering his face in agony. When he finally got up, he was hobbling, and by the baseline, it was obvious his night was over. They said the injury looked minor, but watching his expression as he walked away, the announcers tried to stay positive, but his face told the grim truth the words were avoiding. He looked completely shattered and defeated in that moment. Shattered, defeated. Those words do not cover the weight of Luka's situation then. It was about the sudden death of everything he had built throughout this entire season. Luka finished with 12 points on 3 of 10 shooting, going 1 of 7 from deep, adding 7 assists, 4 boards, and 6 turnovers in 26 minutes. He skipped the media session afterwards. He was seen sliding a compression sleeve over his leg before boarding the bus. The room went silent as LeBron James stood nearby, watching the fallout. Watching the entire disaster play out. Absolutely. He's a wizard in the short roll. Let's hope for the best, the announcer remarked. Yet, in that arena, nobody believed this was just the old leg issue that cost him 4 games, that minor pull from early February 2026. He'd bounced back from that one. He even grinded through the pain late that March. He fought through every ache to stay on floor and keep building what was becoming a historic season for the franchise. Now, that same leg had failed, failing completely during a 31-point third-quarter nightmare. By April 3rd, 2026, the MRI in Dallas confirmed the worst. A grade 2 hamstring tear, meaning the muscle ripped partially right near the hip, a nightmare spot that makes a fast recovery almost impossible. No simple tweak, no mere safety measure, a structural failure of a previously injured muscle. The team confirmed it. Luka was finished for the season. His playoff return remained a total mystery. Shams, Charania, and Dave McMenamin broke the news together. Lakers star Luka Doncic is out indefinitely with a torn hamstring. He'll miss the season's end, with zero timeline for his return. Training analyst. Jeff Stotts clocked the typical NBA recovery at around 35 days. Postseason starts April 18th. Do the math. 35 days from April 2nd hits around May 7th. That misses round 1. That misses the second round start. Best case? Luka walks back onto the court midway through a deep run against teams prepared to kill a Luka-less squad. While those harsh truths were sinking in and playoff dreams faded, JJ Redick faced the microphones. MRI tomorrow, left leg, we'll see. 8 cold words for the update. Calm, controlled. But the following exchange turned incredibly awkward. Discussed it at halftime. planned for a 6-minute stint, then, well, if we didn't close the gap, we'd bench them. But right then I forget the exact time it happened. 6 minutes. Down 31, the plan was 6 more minutes for Luca on a bad leg he was already clutching, pulling him only if they failed. The snap occurred during that window, and fans went nuclear online. Critics slammed the decision as insane, baffling, and totally reckless. Talk radio hosts went straight for Redick's throat. Social media blamed the coaching staff for the whole mess. The logic was simple and incredibly blunt. You're down 31 points. You risk your franchise cornerstone with a known history of leg issues by throwing him back into the fire. The media grilled the coach afterward, but his vague explanations failed to convince anyone in the room. Earlier this season, the Lakers managed a mediocre 7-6 record during the 13 games. Doncic sat out. Without him, their scoring efficiency plummeted from 120.9 to 114.2. Their overall impact on the court effectively crashed into the negatives. That represents the massive gap between a legitimate title contender and a completely middle-of-the-pack squad. And precisely when the season reaches its boiling point, they are forced to survive as a mediocre shadow of themselves for the foreseeable future. But wait, things turn ugly, because as Luka limped off and the team suffered a 43-point blowout, something else shifted. The social media firestorm ignited, and the commentary surrounding Luka during his most painful night was shockingly cold and deeply unfair. Well, he certainly appears to be suffering quite a bit right now. Critics claim that his leg had been fine up until that very moment. The agony he felt was clear, intense, and impossible to ignore. Even with his pain broadcast to millions, it still failed to satisfy the harshest voices in sports media. On the night of the incident, Stephen A. Smith expressed open skepticism on television, noting that Luka was clutching his leg while still managing to pile up points. He publicly questioned if what we witnessed in the first half was real or just theatrics. Think about that for a second. A superstar who would be diagnosed with a legitimate muscle tear via medical imaging the next morning had his integrity challenged while he was still struggling to reach the locker room. That was the toxic reality for Luka Doncic on April 2nd, 2026. There was no empathy or benefit of the doubt, only pure cynicism. Then the fans chimed in. While Luka lay on the hardwood, a spectator at the arena began heckling him directly. The witness accounts claim the fan shouted something along the lines of, "Finally, you understand the physical toll of actually playing defense." A wealthy fan sat courtside just to mock a man suffering from a partial muscle rupture. Austin Reeves was not about to let that slide. He marched over and told the guy to shut his mouth and show some respect for an injured player. LeBron James watched the exchange from a few feet away. Teammates pulled Reeves back before the situation boiled over, but the footage went viral instantly. This flashpoint exposes the harsh reality of the atmosphere surrounding Luka during the 2025 season. It took a teammate physically holding him back from a fan while he was still down on the floor with a serious injury. You do not see that happening to players who are universally respected. This is the result of years spent under the microscope regarding fitness, defensive effort, and weight-related headlines, combined with trade drama that has poisoned the public's perception of him. People now feel they have a green light to mock his misfortune. These fitness critiques are old news. Back in Dallas, rumors swirled that his weight had ballooned to over 260 pounds. Those reports pointed to his lifestyle and lack of conditioning as the primary reasons for the trade that eventually landed him in Los Angeles. He spent the 2025 offseason completely reinventing his body to silence those doubters. Hardcore dieting, fasting, and nonstop cardio. Cutting gluten, he hit camp weighing 230 pounds. He looked shredded and explosive. The on-court impact was instant. By early 2026, critics noticed he was getting heavy again. Whether that perception was accurate or not, it gave detractors a reason to blame his weight for his injuries. Experts like Chris Mannix and Rachel Nichols had already gone public, trashing his defense as the Lakers' biggest, most unfixable hole. Emmanuel Acho pushed it even further, claiming Luka and LeBron ignored JJ Redick, creating a toxic locker room atmosphere. That specific rant, blasted out on national TV, just added more weight to the season-long drama. Then came that viral sideline blow-up from March 2026. During a high-stakes game against the Warriors, Luka got benched and looked completely furious on the sideline. He actually yanked his arm back while Redick tried to talk. Vanderbilt had to step in. The footage went nuclear instantly. YouTube was flooded with Lakers crisis and Luka wants JJ fired clips. Insiders later said it was just a heat-of-the-moment thing with no beef, but the narrative had already taken on a life of its own. Emmanuel Acho used it as proof that the Stars were sabotaging Redick. It was picked up and blown way out of proportion, painting a picture of a player who wasn't just fragile, but toxic. The technical foul drama was the final nail in the coffin. Luka managed to rack up 16 technicals for the year, triggering an automatic one-game suspension in late March 2026. The ban wasn't the headline, it was the mess leading up to it. The NBA had previously voided an earlier tech after a Lakers appeal, specifically so Luka wouldn't miss the 65-game awards cutoff. The media backlash was absolutely instantaneous. Skip Bayless slammed the decision as a total joke. Every talking head accused the league of prioritizing money over rules. This idea that the league was playing favorites and twisting the rulebook for Luka turned half the fans against him by OKC. So, when he collapsed in the third quarter, the reaction wasn't just sympathy. A loud, visible group of people on the internet actually celebrated the moment, treating the injury like some punchline. Deep stats from Cleaning the Glass showed the Lakers were elite, top 8% with Luka, but they tanked when he sat. That context didn't matter to the trolls busy making memes. They'd been praying for his downfall, and this was it. He wasn't getting up. This story was way bigger than the broadcast. The entire system was breaking down. While the mockery ran wild across social media and sports radio, an even more toxic brand of nonsense was beginning to unfold. This didn't come from some loudmouth fan or a TV talking head. The problem was rooted deep within the league's very foundation. Luka Doncic had logged 64 appearances heading into that April 2nd, 2026 showdown. The NBA's 65-game threshold demands players suit up for at least 65 nights. You must log 20-plus minutes in those games just to qualify for the MVP trophy. That goes for all NBA, top defensive honors, and even the Most Improved award. He was exactly one game away from hitting that mark. One single night stood between the league's most prolific scorer and his official recognition. The scoring king was about to be disqualified from being called the scoring king. This whole policy was first rolled out for the 23-24 season. The goal was blatant: crush load management and stop healthy stars from ducking big games. They wanted to end the trend of guys skipping national TV and then winning awards. The logic seemed sound when the issue was players simply choosing to rest. But that 2025-26 season revealed the brutal reality of the situation. Everything falls apart when a rigid rule hits a season defined by genuine physical trauma. We witnessed a total collapse as actual injuries decimated the league's elite talent pool. By April 4th, 2026, the numbers were staggering. 12 massive stars were officially barred or guaranteed to miss that 65-game cutoff. 12. These aren't role players. We are talking about franchise icons and MVP favorites. Minnesota's Anthony Edwards only managed 58 or 59 appearances. He dropped 6 games in March because his right knee was essentially on fire. Missing the Detroit game on April 2nd officially killed his chances with 6 games left. His All-NBA resume was tossed straight into the trash. Detroit's Cade Cunningham hit 61 games before a collapsed lung ended his season in March. The man was putting up 24.5 points and nearly 10 dimes. He literally dragged the Pistons to the top of the Eastern Conference standings. By any logic, he was a top 5 MVP lock, now completely erased. A medical emergency and a rigid counter replaced his greatness with a blank space. Steph Curry missed around 23 games for the Warriors during that stretch. A bone bruise and chronic knee pain since January ended his eligibility for good. Disqualified. Giannis missed over 15 games early on due to a severe calf strain. Add in his ankle and knee struggles, and his season was effectively nullified. He averaged 27.7 points and 10 boards for absolutely zero recognition. LeBron James sat out 18 games, losing his shot at any year-end hardware. Dealing with foot arthritis in February finally snapped his legendary 21-year streak. He was still elite at 41 years old, averaging nearly 22 points a night. That is the level of greatness being marginalized alongside Luka Doncic. Yet, the commissioner stood before the governors in March and doubled down on it. Adam Silver's official stance was, "I think the system is working perfectly." He argued that one player's misfortune shouldn't prove the entire rule is a failure. He offered some hollow sympathy for the guys who actually got hurt. He bragged that fewer healthy stars were skipping the big nationally televised matchups. He refused to budge, sparking an immediate and massive outcry from the players. Jaylen Brown hit Twitch to expose the total hypocrisy coming from the league office. He remarked, "It's wild how the standards keep changing. Everyone initially backed that 65-game threshold. Nowadays, the general consensus is to just scrap it." Brown admitted he never truly loved that 65-game requirement. He'd have preferred 62, but he still defended the underlying logic. You can't have guys playing 45 or 50 nights winning first-team honors. Their stats look better because they didn't grind through the full calendar. Amidst that defense, he stopped to recognize the tier Luka's been on. Luka's been playing out of his mind lately. He acknowledged the output but remained firm. Tim from ESPN called the rule a failure on April 3rd, demanding specific exceptions. Both The Athletic and The Times called the award season a disaster, noting the absurdity of stars getting disqualified for injuries instead of lack of effort. The union, led by Andre Iguodala, issued a sharp demand for reform, slamming the rule as mindless and rigid after it sidelined too many stars. None of that noise helped Luka's case. Not just yet. His agent, Bill Duffy, just announced a formal appeal against the 65-game mandate. Duffy's statement laid out the facts plainly. This past season, Luka has played at a legendary level, finishing as the scoring champion, propelling the Lakers to the 3rd seed in the West, and cementing himself in one of history's most competitive MVP races. To ensure his massive achievements get the credit they deserve, and to keep him eligible for year-end honors, we are requesting a special hardship exception to the 65-game rule. Duffy highlighted 2 absences that had zero connection to load management. There were 4 games missed during the break due to a hamstring strain, plus 2 games in December 2025 for his daughter's birth. He flew back and was back on the court just 48 hours later. A man who crosses an ocean, sees his child born, and plays ball 2 days later is disqualified by 1 game. That is the reality. Insiders like Bobby Marks think he has a strong case for a waiver. The betting markets, including BetMGM, had already scrubbed him from the MVP boards when the news dropped. The final ruling on the appeal was still pending by April 4th, 2026. Here is the detail that makes the whole thing feel totally bizarre. Without All-NBA status, Luka would become only the 3rd player ever to lead the league in scoring without making the cut. Just the 3rd in history. We're talking 33.5 points per game and 13 straight 30-point nights. He dropped 60 in one game and 51 in another. He was 3rd in dimes and 2nd among guards in boards. Yet the league might snub him over one single missing game. Luka was 4th in the latest MVP poll, behind Shai, Wemby, and Jokic. Now, with the injury and eligibility drama both coming to a head, SGA and Wembanyama had basically locked up the top spots. Luka's season-long campaign for the crown was suddenly stripped from his hands by external forces. It wasn't the box scores or the media that ended it, it was a technicality and a physical breakdown. A total meltdown. Throughout April 2026, the headlines were obsessed with his leg injury. Everyone fixated on the medical stats, the 65-game threshold, and how the postseason might change. Those details definitely mattered. However, while the league focused on his anatomy, they missed the massive storm brewing behind the scenes. Luka was watching his entire world crumble on several fronts all at once. Yet, in spite of the chaos, he continued to play at an unbelievable level. By the 10th of March, 2026, Luka told reporters he had called off his wedding to Anamaria Goltes. They were childhood sweethearts who had been together since 2016. After getting engaged in July 2023, they welcomed 2 little girls named Gabriella and Olivia, both born in Slovenia between late 2023 and 2025. Goltes hit him with a legal petition in California, demanding child support and payment for her lawyers. Once the news broke, Luka didn't wait long to go public about their split. He claimed he was completely blindsided by the legal move in the States. His team argued that she was dragging him into the wrong court system. He believed she did it just to squeeze more cash out of him via California law. He insisted he was not a local resident and that his kids belonged in Slovenian courts. Luca maintained that he had never stopped bankrolling every single one of his daughter's needs. On March 10th, 2026, he released a heartbreaking official statement. "My kids mean the world to me, and I have fought to keep them near me during the NBA season, but it just was not working. Breaking things off was a brutal choice, but I did it for their future happiness. I will never stop fighting to be in their lives and give them everything they deserve." He described the game as his only sanctuary, his true place of healing. This guy was dropping 33.5 points a night just to run away from his reality. Imagine the toll his private life was taking. Apparently, Anamaria moved back to Slovenia with their first child while she was expecting their second, right after Luka got traded to Los Angeles in early 2025. Those two missed games in December that might cost him his awards, the ones where he rushed home for the birth of his daughter, they have now become a central piece of the legal war over his children. He witnessed a birth and was back on the hardwood within 48 hours. By the time April rolled around, he had not held his girls in over 4 months. In late February 2026, Luka finally took legal action in Slovenia just to see them. His powerhouse legal squad, featuring the heavy-hitting celebrity lawyer Laura Wasser, tried to shut down the LA case to keep the fight where the kids actually live. Meanwhile, Anamaria scrubbed him from her social media, deleting every trace of him. She started liking posts about the struggles of being an unsupported, stressed-out new mother. The press immediately smelled blood in the water. Suddenly, his messy custody war was being analyzed right next to his injury reports and title odds. Right now, we'll recall that incredible 13-game run of 30-point nights, dropping 51 on Chicago, 60 in Miami, 600 total in March. This happened while an international custody battle played out in 2 different countries. Luka hadn't seen his daughters in months while publicly navigating the collapse of a decade-long relationship. He treated the court like therapy and then delivered numbers that would be legendary for any player with 0 distractions. Meanwhile, the internet was mocking his weight. That blockbuster trade hadn't fully settled either. The February 2025 deal, sending Luka to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, remains a historic debate. Mavs fans called it total robbery and a sports disgrace. Players across the league were left completely stunned. Luka admitted his own first reaction was devastating. He truly expected to retire in Dallas. By spring of 2026, the Mavericks were drowning with 24 wins and 51 losses. Former owner Mark Cuban went on a podcast in late March, blaming coach Jason Kidd for pushing the trade through. Kidd fired back, demanding to know when people would move on. In February, Luka called the Lakers legendary, hinting LA was better than Dallas. The bridge in Dallas was still burning. Their front office took major heat while Luka, despite everything, dominated in LA, making the trade look worse weekly. The Lakers hit the home stretch at 50-27, clinching the Pacific Division title and the West's 3rd seed. Their final 5 games at Dallas April 5th versus OKC, April 7th at Golden State, April 9th, Phoenix April 10th, Utah April 12th will be without him. Coach Redick told the media they'll lean on depth, not force a return. Austin Reeves is set to take over as lead playmaker. Anthony Davis will have to carry the scoring load. Expect their offense to stall and become much easier to defend. ESPN's Tim Bontemps called this the ultimate test of a roster depth they haven't needed since that 2020 bubble title. Jake Fisher from Yahoo Sports was blunt. Without Luka, they're just good, maybe enough for round 1, but vulnerable once the real competition begins. Analysis from ESPN and 538. Gives the Luka-less Lakers under 15% odds for the finals and 5 for a ring. Historical data shows that teams losing their top scorer and playmaker for a series win only 28% of the time. For a team that built its identity on one man's shoulders, those statistics are genuinely terrifying. LA hopes to have Luka back between April 25th and 30th, depending on his swelling and strength tests clearing. That schedule targets a comeback during the conference semifinals, Game 2 or Game 3 at the absolute earliest, provided the Lakers can actually survive the first round without him. A feat that most computer models label a massive uphill battle. We will bring you the latest details once we return to Prime. They returned with the report, and it was every bit as devastating as feared. The reality of what Luca is dealing with this postseason is definitely no laughing matter. A grade 2 partial tear in a hamstring that was already compromised. A 35-day average timeline for a full recovery. An international custody battle for 2 daughters he has not seen in 4 months. A trade that forced him out of the only franchise he ever called home. A 65-game eligibility rule that is one single game away from voiding. Credit for one of the most legendary individual seasons the league has seen in years. A coaching choice that still has the entire fan base fuming. Constant criticism about his Waived in a public that, for the most part, reacted to his lowest point of the year with mockery instead of empathy. Without making an All-NBA team, Luka would be only the 3rd scoring leader in history to miss out on All-NBA honors. Those are the stakes for this eligibility fight. That is the weight of one single game. And that specific appeal? The hardship filing was still pending as of April 4th, 2026, with no sure fix. He hit the showers, he slid the compression sleeve on, boarded the team bus, and stayed silent. And the online mockery just kept piling on.